So you're looking to be a TV announcer at some point in time? Is that your future?
I wouldn't turn it down.
I wouldn't. Yeah. You do good.
All right. Well, welcome to PRI 2019, everybody. You all know me. I'm Andrew Raines with Apex Pro. We're here with a good friend of ours and somebody who's done a lot for the motorsports industry in general, Joe Marko, HMS Motorsport. So
good to be here today. It's always nice to be with a professional announcer here. You know, you're famous on the web right now, I think, as far as things go.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I hope I continue to learn. I've always enjoyed. I acted as a kid, actually. I did plays, and I joined an acting agency. Musicals.
You can sing?
If I like karaoke a lot.
Okay, there you go.
I was in a band in high school.
All right.
Can do a decent, harmony if I need to.
Now we know. Now I know why you have the skill with all the video stuff. It's you're an actor. You're a born actor.
Baker says I shouldn't reveal my secret, but I did improv training and all sorts of stuff. But tell us a little bit about at HMS. We'll start with the story. HMS is a dealer for Apex Pro. They allow us to be part of their setup at the PRI show, which is
happy to have you. Absolutely.
They represent the Apex Pro brand like no other, and have retail stores in Charlotte and Boston.
Boston, Danvers, Massachusetts, a little bit north of Boston.
Yep. Tell us a little bit about how.
Well, January's 25 years for HMS. So we started in 1995 doing like BMW performance stuff. We started the same year as Turner Motorsport. And then we did some things with Mustangs. We had a dyno. We did all sorts of mistakes that didn't really pan out. Early on, we found this company, Schroth, which was making restraint, rally belts, they call them, which were for autocross events. And we picked that line up in 1997, so 1 year, 2 years after. And in 2 years, we were their largest dealer. And Schroth is a fascinating company. They've been around now 70 years, 75 years. They were some of the very early seatbelts in cars and BMWs and Volvos.
Really?
And it's just been a harness manufacturer, but now they're a significant player in the military and aviation business. A lot of the belts that you'll see in the cockpits in private jets and in the back of in the passenger part of private jets, they do a lot of that. So they're very big in aviation, very big in military. Back during the Gulf War, I helped work with them. We did like $10 million in belts for MATVs and all the different vehicles there. So very big. So the motorsport part is kind of a small part of what Schroth is. But in 1999, we had the opportunity to. They wanted to focus more on the military aviation, and they set up a new operation in Pompano Beach. And they said, well, why don't you take the motorsport stuff? So we started with Schroth in 1999. So this year, 2019, we've been Schroth's exclusive importer distributor for 20 years. Schroth's been Carl Schroth, who was the founder, sold the company about 8 years ago. It got bought out by. They sold it to one company. That company got bought out by BAE. Excuse me. BAE sold it to Takata, and then Takata kind of had a problem with the airbags.
Right.
So Takata disappeared, and then another company acquired it. But throughout it, they've maintained the motorsport growth. The motorsport's very successful. And we've grown it from a $250,000 business back in 1999 to about a $3 million business now in North America.
Wow, that's incredible.
We have, in our research, we have about 70% of the premium motorsport market. Now, HMS is a little bit unique in that we've, in 2002, this actual PRI show where we are today, Carl Schroth and I were here in a small 10x10 booth. And we had a couple of people walk up. We had Ryan Newman and his crew chief, Matt Borland.
Oh, cool.
They walked up and started looking at our belts. So now I was not I watched the Daytona 500 and something like that, but I didn't really know who they were. And so we just were talking about our new belts that we had for racing, and they were very interested. It turns out at that point in time, Ryan was the new hot shoe rookie, so there was a big crowd gathering around.
Yeah.
I was totally oblivious to it. I'm doing my sales job, talking, about the product with Carl, and they were really impressed with what happened. And this is, right after Earnhardt's accident, so there's a new focus on
safety. There's an impetus for including more safety.
Right. So they said, well, you need to come to Charlotte, and they said, oh yeah, we're with Penske Racing South, and it's like, okay, I'd heard of Penske. So
familiar.
So the next week, Carl and I went down to Penske Racing South. We showed them what our product was, and we looked at the car and how it could be installed. We gave them some ideas of how they can improve the mounting, that the lap belts needed to pivot, and different things like that. And they were very impressed. Don Miller, who was the in charge of all the Penske operations back then, he said, we got to introduce you to somebody. So they brought us over and introduced us to a gentleman named Steve Peterson at NASCAR. And Steve was the person who was in charge of the COT car, the car of tomorrow.
Okay.
And
so
all
very
of the
integral in the development of
right.
NASCAR
And he was
classes.
like in charge of all their safety stuff. And so Steve was impressed with what Carl had to say, and at that point in time, I was learning from Carl. So I mean, Carl is a textile engineer by trade. So like all the Schroth webbing, for example, he designed the wave and the reef of the webbing. So all the Schroth webbing is made. It's a technology. It's only Schroth. So that webbing is only manufactured for Schroth.
Proprietary
under
to
proprietary,
the brand.
which is why it's soft and has nice edges and all that kind of stuff. So we got in with NASCAR to talk to Steve, and so I think Steve was impressed with what we had to say and our approach to things and how we would educate. We're educating him a little bit on the proper angles and how things needed to be installed.
Right.
And so
education is a critical component of sales,
thing,
right?
a critical component.
Yeah.
So what really happened is that started a relationship that goes on to this day. So pretty much every sled test for new seatbelt development that NASCAR has done since 2002 going forward, we've been part of that as Schroth. We introduced the first cam lock to NASCAR. We introduced the first Hans shoulder belt, a 2-inch belt going over the Hans, the first over-under belt, which one belt going kind of over the shoulder directly, and then a Hans sandwiching in between. 2-inch lap belts. NASCAR Steve told me, Marko, stop with the 2-inch lap belts. We're never going to have 2-inch lap belts in NASCAR. Fortunately, John Melvin, who's unfortunately passed away now, who's the thing, he got on the bandwagon too, and we proved that a 2-inch lap belt was just as good as the 3-inch, but it actually had advantages because of the way it fits over the pelvis and stuff like that. So we got now. There's
so
not
the fitment was more important.
The
than
fitment
the
was more important,
was
right?
Connecting with your pelvis.
Yeah, because the way it's woven is different, so the strength and elongation were the same. So it really, but then the fit, because it drops below your iliac crest and fits the width of the pelvis here is like 2 inches. Right. It's much more comfortable. You get the belt inch and a half tighter. So now today in NASCAR, there's not a single cup driver that's running a 3-inch lap belt. In IndyCar, almost everybody's running a 2-inch lap belt. So but all these are technologies that we were the first to bring these technologies into NASCAR. And the 2-inch belt is something that I'm very proud of, with HMS, is that we, from day one with the 2-inch belts, we had to go around to every sanctioning body and convince them that, a 2-inch belt is okay, and this is why, and prove it, and they wanted to see the data.
Show them the data, yeah.
And then we had to work with SFI to, ultimately we got it approved in SFI, so now all the SFI belt standards allow 2-inch belts. And so today, a 2-inch shoulder belt, 2-inch lap belt is really more the common belt that we're selling. 98% of the belts, 99% of the belts is what we sell.
I'm familiar with in my endurance car. I think most of my friends and a lot of people that are probably watching have experienced Schroth harnesses, and once you do, it's hard to go back.
Right. But the whole thing with the 2-inch belts, that was something that was not in the U.S. and none of the other manufacturers were bringing it in. It was an education process that we had to go through from day one. So it's really been an exciting thing. I mean, my background, before HMS, I spent 20 years in the hotel industry, hotel technology,
hospitality,
and I was kind of a leader in hotel technology. But then the education, working with Carl Schroth and working with NASCAR and learning about it and being involved in all the sled testing, I'm now pretty well educated on belts. I mean, I helped in conjunction with John Melvin. We wrote the SFI guideline to seatbelt installation. So what angles and how all that stuff works. So and I
that's so cool.
And so what with Schroth now, we were the importer for Schroth, as I said, for 20 years. We also do all the customization. So if you go to our shop in North Carolina, you'll see a big department where we do sewing and stuff. So we have a blueprint, literally a drawing for every NASCAR driver and every IndyCar driver that we have.
I've seen it. Billy showed me the different measurements and sizing.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll do once they get their seat done, they do a seat pour, we'll go with them, we'll to the shop, we'll measure the drivers, and then we build the belt exactly for that driver. So
That's
it'll be
fascinating.
And it's all sewn. They say they want a little pull tab here or a piece of Velcro there or something different or a bigger grip.
Completely custom.
Totally custom. So it's a blueprint for every single driver. And so all that stuff is done right at HMS. We do it. We've been doing it now since 2002. And that's a big step. And I think people don't realize that about HMS, is that, we are the importer. Yes, we sell at retail, but we do all the customization is done right there at HMS.
Yeah, the facility in Charlotte, north of Charlotte, is incredible too. If you're in the Charlotte area, NASCAR town, right, just north of Charlotte, that entire community, the HMS, you got to go by their shop and
we'll give you a tour too if you want to come by. We'll give you a tour through the back and show you how to do it. We have 12,000 square feet in Charlotte and 2,500 square feet up in Massachusetts.
That's right. Great facilities. Both of them.
So the Schroth thing opened up a lot of doors for us to deal with other products. We in 2010 at the PRI show we met Stilo. We met the Fascitellis from Stilo, and we brought Stilo into the market. And because we had the distribution with Schroth, it allowed us to kind of really quickly get the Stilo products out to the market because we could go through our same dealer distribution.
I don't think a lot of people, I bought my Stilo from HMS Motorsport. I wear it constantly. I have a lot of friends that have too. I don't think people realize that you brought Stilo. The reason Stilo's here is because of Joe.
Right, and so we did it. Then Stilo was acquired by Simpson in 2015. Our contract only went until 2017, so unfortunately when 2017 came along, Simpson said, okay, thanks very much, we're going to do it, but it's the way the business world goes.
Yeah.
But we have other products too, so our other core products, we've been the dealer for Cobra seats now, importer for Cobra seats for probably about 8 years now, and Cobra seats are great seats that are from the UK, so it's not made in Asia.
Made in the UK.
Made in the UK, really made in the UK. I
always thought that was neat. They maintain the manufacturing there.
And so we've really done a great job with them. We have a new seat with them called the Nagaro, which we've worked hard to get a seat that would fit into Corvettes and Porsches and Miatas that will get the driver lower. But it has a 6-point belt that you could use, a 6-point belt with it, or you could use your regular factory 3-point belt. And so that's come out.
Huge advantage being able to
Huge advantage.
Yeah.
Working with Bray Krause, who's just a phenomenal engineering company, a company that can really depend on for doing a great job. They've got all the bracketry and the hardware for mounts for shoulder belts and the proper mounts for the seats and and the substraps. So that's been a really good product. That's been something new that we've been focused on. And then 2 years ago, we brought on this product called Valero. Valero is a new set of base layers, which are really a whole advancement in the world of undergarments or base layers.
Fascinating technology.
Right. Yeah. We got you set to finally try. I've been trying to work on that.
Can't wait to wear it.
Right.
We talked to Patrick and had him on Facebook Live yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think that will really resonate with the community because the data's there to show if you purchase a set of underwear and wear it, you're putting yourself in really in the pocket for success
right.
in a race car. Right?
I mean, just to give you an example, Corey LaJoie in 2017, racing and full season of Cup, he had 3 or 4 trips to infield care center after a race for fluids because he was just he tends to sweat a lot and he was throwing ice packs and stuff inside.
Fluid loss in a NASCAR race, 4 hours in a hot
It's a huge thing. That car could be 140, 150 degrees inside. 2018, 2019. With Valero, no trips. He did great. So that
cool.
alone is a big testament. And he's been a big supporter of what it is.
He was here yesterday.
He was here yesterday signing autographs. Yeah.
Connor Daly was here as well.
Connor Daly, yeah.
Some really high level pro guys that are using the product that are really putting it to the test and a limit. I raced a late model stock car for a little while, so I have an idea of the amount of heat that's created from the large displacement engine, transmission tunnel in the middle of the car. Those guys are warriors for 4 hours in the car.
Right. It's anybody, the whole athlete thing. Anybody who can sit in the car for 140 degrees for 5 hours and get out of the car and still be standing, that's a feat
impressive.
in its own.
Tony Stewart said, I think on the Dinner with Racers podcast recently, that he, being a bigger guy, he could lose a lot more water than some of the smaller guys, and he'd get out of the car and still feel okay, and some other guys were passing out, and he didn't even have Valero.
Right. So that's really taken off. I mean, and it's something that's really interesting. Like Brady, one of our sales guys, he likes to hike. He was hiking Mount Washington, in the late fall, early winter, where at the top of the mountain it's really cold. So he wore it, and he was like, yeah, okay, it's good, but you want your guys to be behind it and experience it firsthand. So he hiked up and he said, I'm sweating when I get up to the top. Normally, I'd be, really cold and stuff. And he said, I got up to the top and I was sweating like a pig, and it was really cold and windy, but I felt fine. And and that's it's that kind of thing. And I mean, I've been using it instructing for BMW Porsche Club driver schools. VIR this year, 95 degrees in August, and I'm wearing it all around the day, and I felt pretty comfortable.
So the average or anybody that's going to the track can benefit.
Right.
It's not just for a NASCAR Cup driver, but we'll be using it this year in endurance racing, but also guys that are going in a hot environment in HPD.
Yeah, but even just HPD. So what happens in HPD, you're not wearing a fire suit. The likelihood of a fire is pretty small.
Yes, you don't have race fuel.
rather than wearing a cotton T-shirt or a polyester T-shirt or something like that, you wear the Valero. It's going to give you that comfort. It feels like cotton. And now you have fire protection. So, I mean, it's not a bad idea as an alternative. And we've had some good luck, and we've had a number of people that have picked it up at some of the events that we go to. Yeah. I mean, like you, the best place to get people to understand your products is to go to the track.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
If you're not at the track and if you're not representing your products at the track and educating the people, education is the real key. And I think that's the growth for HMS over the years has been because we really work to educate people. We sponsor, I'm the National Safety Steward for BMW Club Racing, but we've been sponsoring Club Racing for a number of years. We're the National Safety Sponsor for SVRA. We were for a number of years with Formula Drift, but part of the way we came into those programs is we said, okay, we'll be a national sponsor, safety sponsor, but we want to work with you on your general competition rules on the safety aspects of it to incorporate. So with Formula Drift,
on the rules.
Right. So with Formula Drift, we said, all right, we'll sponsor you for the next couple of years as a safety supplier, but you need to mandate head and neck restraints. You need to follow the guidelines as far as expiration dates on belts and inspect it. You need to make sure that the people are doing it. We did the same thing with SVRA. So I'm proud of what we've been able to do. BMW Club Racing was the first club to mandate head and neck restraints. So we work with all these organizations. We educate them. We put on safety seminars. Formula Drift, we did a safety seminar for all the drivers and crew chiefs when we were going to mandate the Hans. So they had to that was part of the deal. If you don't have a 1 hour session where we get to talk to all those guys at one point in time, we're not going to do it.
It's a lot more than just a sales opportunity. Right. Something that I just wanted to mention. If you're a racer and you've been using Schroth products and the technology Joe's helped develop, and you've had an impact, this is the guy you have to thank for your safety right here. I think that goes a long way. Something else I think people that follow Apex Pro would be interested in is the racecar brand, and particularly the Track-Comm product. And wanted to definitely talk about that because I've been using one for years, the original version of the product. Want to hear about the new one a little bit.
Yeah, so basically, having been involved in DEs for 30 years and using NADI units and chatterbox units and dealing with the booms that crap out and static and not being able to communicate.
Wires pulling out.
5 years ago, we acquired a company called Race Communications from Mike Mullins. Great guy, there. But we said, all right, what can we do that's really needed? And they said, we need to come up with something that's going to be an instructor communicator that's going to be bulletproof. The boom has to be, it doesn't matter what wire you pull on it, when you take it out and they yank on it, it needs to stay connected. You need to be able to hear, you need to have a solid connection, you need to ideally have separate volume controls and things. So
adapters for different
things, so if you're a racer and you've got earbuds and you want to just plug into your regular electronics, fine, you need an adapter cable for that. So we did all that. We built a unit which we call the Track-Comm. We're now on our kind of third iteration of it. We've added Just this year, we've added a second amplifier, so each volume controls separately.
Has its own
amplifier, which will make it much louder. I think the only complaint we've had in the last year has been, in some situations, it's not quite as loud as they'd like to have. But we've solved all the interference issues that we had very early on. The boom has worked out, terrific, and we're always constantly making improvements. But it's been very, very well received.
What's the retail price on the Track-Comm?
So the Track-Comm is $125 for the base unit. The booms are $79. We have a helmet kit that's also $79. We have adapter cables. So if you already have all your electronics for like $39 to plug in,
just integrates right in with your existing stuff.
Right.
That's a small price to pay to have that reliability. Because and there's probably 10 people watching that have this problem with their students, and they go to, they're getting out of the car. I've done this myself, and you forget to unplug the instructor harness or forget to unplug your communicator, and you just get out of the car and pull the harness out. Track-Comm's robust enough.
And they're guaranteed for a year. If you break a boom, so far anybody who's ever we've replaced maybe 10, and I don't care if it's a year or 2 years old, we'll replace it. I mean, we make it in our shop in Mooresville. It's not coming from somewhere else. We didn't just send it off to be made cheaply. We actually assemble it. We're on our 4th or 5th iteration of our circuit board that's in there to really make it, not only easier to install, but more solid state. I mean, you guys know about that because you're building your own unit.
That's right.
And there's a lot to be said for when we build it ourselves. Our person in charge of RaceComm now is avionics engineer. He was in the military.
Cool.
He was worked on avionics for F-15s and was building things and worked in that field. So he's now in charge of it. So he's even stepped it up more with the production process and the quality control and stuff. So we really work really hard on that. And we'll work with like clubs. So if you have an organization like if you want to do a kind of a big deal for your whole group,
a group buy.
Yeah, kind of a group buy. But the way we want to work the program is that we've suggested is that like a BMW chapter might buy 20 or 30 units, but then we'll offer them a deal. But then they offer it to their instructors. So like if an instructor did X number of units events last year, or they're going to do this, then you give them that much off. So what we're trying to do is make it so that there's an incentive to, participate, and therefore you get it at a much better deal. Because the goal is you need to be able to communicate with your student when you're on the track. There's nothing worse than getting on the track and not being able to, and trying to yell and hear. It just doesn't work.
You can't do it.
You can't do it.
Even in a modern street car with a muffled exhaust, there's too much going on.
Right.
Windows are down.
Windows are down. Right.
Yeah, you got to have it. So guys, if you haven't invested in yourself to get a communicator device, you need a Track-Comm unit. I mean, it's a simple purchase, right?
That's a shameless plug, but I do appreciate that.
Oh, no. I have no problem because it's obviously Joe's invested in doing stuff for the industry and supporting the community. We're all here because we love this industry and we love this community, and that's almost more of a service to the community than it is a sale. And I think it's very similar to what we try to do with Apex Pro. We want to educate people.
And I've been having a lot of fun with the Apex Pro. I mean, I think we do a lot with Chump Car and Lemons and stuff like that, and I think one of the big advantages of the Apex Pro is for like a Chump Car team or a Lemons team. You put a good driver in it, they go out and they start setting limits, and now I can start watching the little lights here going back and forth, and the guy who's less experienced, and there's always, when you're doing Chump Car, you got one or two really good guys like yourself, and then you have everybody else. And and that really helps to bring the whole group up. Or it's a 24-hour race or whatever. You can say, I don't want you to exceed. Don't go trying to make it.
Keep a couple red lights on the end of the light.
So we got a little bit of room to go. And so and that's been good. And I've been using with some of the advanced students. I've used it with some of the advanced students, and it changes the whole instructor thing. It gives me a whole new thing to talk about. And sometimes, you're out with an advanced student and, they're driving as well as you are or better. And it's like, all right, well, what can I do to work with that guy? And that's really been a big help for me as an instructor with an advanced student is to, take a suction cup, stick it on the window and say, all right, let's look at this and then sit down afterwards.
So we have some talking points and some finer details we can uncover. Yeah, we appreciate the partnership and appreciate, I learn something new every time I'm with you, and I think I love learning more about the safety aspect of the industry, and I'm excited to continue to learn more as we spend more time together. So
we love to work together. It's been great, and I appreciate all the opportunities you give us too.
Well, thank you for the Arrive and Drive trade show setup. You can't beat it, and we love where we are. If you're at the show today, come by booth 4839. Come sit in some Cobra seats, touch some of the Valero, underlayer. It's impressive.
All the belts are on display, and you can pick up a Track-Comm at a discount. And you can actually, I think we're doing at the show only a
Apex Pro discount.
Right.
Yep, 10% off. And you guys know we have MAP pricing. We do not discount the product. If you're at PRI, this is the exception. Get over here. Come see us. Come say hey.
And when we run out, we run out.
That's right. And that's a real thing. That might happen. Baker's been working hard. All right, guys. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you joining me.
Very good.